Welcome to the Human Frame podcast with me, Łucja, where I talk to incredible people that I've met along different industries to talk about art as a form of activism. Today I'm joined by Phoebe Cleghorn, who is an actor, screenwriter, executive producer, who has starred in The Government Inspector at Lyric Hammersmith Theatre and featured on BBC Maestro's acting masterclasses with Succession's Brian Cox, amongst other projects. Her acting has been recognised with a nomination for Shooting People's New Shoots Actors Award 2024, which spotlights promising emerging talent. For her writing, she was shortlisted for the BFI's Southeast Script Lab in 2023. Phoebe is currently raising funds to support the production of her debut short film, I Did Everything Right, which explores the psychological consequences of gender-based violence and received an honourable mention at London Women's Film Festival in 2026 for the Best Unproduced Short Screenplay. As part of the wider campaign for this project, she has recently collaborated with Womankind Worldwide, and everyone's invited on a social media interview series with co-creator Coralie Aliyah, amplified women's voices and calling for a safer, more equitable world. I'm really excited for this conversation, I think because we share a lot of things in common in terms of, gender-based violence. So yeah, I'm very excited to get started.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I feel like we've been having lots of conversations about this topic offline, so it's great to get the chance to do it in this way.
So yeah, I want to start kind of at the beginning. When did acting and writing shift from creative expression for you into something political?
So, to be honest, I think I wouldn't even say that it has shifted for me or that there was like a conscious decision there. I think the way that we live our lives is inherently political, and I think when you're creating art that reflects life and is telling stories inspired by real people and real experiences that people are going through, then that is going to be inherently political, even if there's not a kind of clear, like a super strong message that you're trying to hammer home. It just is. And so, yeah, I think no matter what stories I'm telling, whether it's through my acting or my writing, I think they're always going to be political. I totally disagree with the view that it cannot be.
Yeah, I think there's sometimes a stigma of like not being too political.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think everything we do does, not necessarily politics, it's just, how society functions and it's questioning. I think it's quite a healthy way to look at the world and see something flawed and portray it in the art. I mean, writers have been doing this for centuries. It's not a new concept.
Yeah, even if we look at something like a sitcom or a kitchen sink drama, I think the relationships that are going to be reflected in those are still going to depict the systems that we're living in, whatever they are. So yeah, I don't think it has to be this kind of, and in my case, the story that I'm telling is quite overtly political, and I do want to affect change with it. But yeah, even on the other end of the spectrum, I think it's always there.
Yeah, I mean, even in not directly. Even Harold Pinter, for example, talks about how humans are turning on each other and becoming more and more. What's the word when we stab each other basically and become more horrible to each other? That's still for me, that's still quite political because it does influence things in society and how people talk to each other, and it kind of gives you a warning of where society is heading towards.
I know exactly what you mean, and I think even the way we choose to show up in our relationships in our daily life, and the jobs we go to and how we get to those jobs and the food we eat, I think all of those things are political decisions, whether we like it or not.
Definitely. Sarah Kane, obviously a massive one. I think
nice.
does a lot of especially on women and women's violence against women anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, what made you want to tell stories not just about people but also about systems?
So I think everything I do, to be honest, with my creativity, whether it's like reading a book or, I also really enjoy fine art and like life drawing, and whether it's watching a film, writing something myself, acting in something, it's all driven by a kind of fascination with and curiosity to better understand people. So when I'm like dissecting a character, I'm asking, what is it that makes this person who they are? What have they been through in their life from the day that they were born to the moment we find them now in this story that's made them act in the way they are, behave in the way they do, and make the decisions that we see in this story. And I guess, kind of similar to my previous answer, we are people existing within wider systems. And so I guess it's about how those systems are influencing us to behave with each other in relation to each other.
No, definitely. I think I really agree with you in terms of, looking at how society affects you and how that influences your own kind of, anything, whether it's, as you said, just drawing or painting or whatever it might be. I want to turn to your film, I Did Everything Right. I know you're still in the pre-production process, but it does explore the psychological aftermath of gender-based violence. So what was the emotional starting point for you writing it?
Yeah, so I Did Everything Right it's a short film inspired by my own experience of being followed home. It happened a few years ago. I was traveling on my own in Italy, and I was affected by it psychologically in ways that took me quite a while to understand. And it was just last year, it was actually a podcast that I was listening to that kind of inspired me to write it. It's a podcast called The Knife, where they invite survivors on to tell their stories. And there was this amazing woman and personal trainer called Daroon Henry who was on the podcast, and she was describing something that had happened to her. She was basically out training. She was filming content for social media, and she escaped an attempted attack by a man, essentially. The man then fled, and he wasn't then, identified for a really long time. And hearing the way that she spoke about it and how that experience stayed with her, not just when she was out or in the place where she used to train outdoors, but also at home, how it affected her relationship with her husband, how she, if she was sitting on her porch, which she used to love and brought her a lot of peace, if a man entered her road, she would go inside. And I think hearing her experience just really led me to reflecting on mine and identify the ways that I had been carrying it with me, these kind of like coping mechanisms that I developed in order to feel safe, whether it's like, sleeping with a light on, or like barricading myself into the space that I'm sleeping in. And for a long time I was waking up through the night having panic attacks and like feeling like I couldn't breathe. And thankfully with therapy and lots of amazing people in my life, I was able to work through that. But then basically I was so inspired by her telling her story that I was like, okay, I'd like to use the tools that I have at my disposal, which is my creativity, which is my writing, my acting, and tell my story so that it can hopefully have like a ripple effect in the same way and show other women that what they're dealing with is something that unfortunately a lot of other people can relate to, but most importantly that it's like just nothing to be ashamed of. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from, I would say.
I think it's really great, to be able to share stories, because as you said, sharing one story then kind of does create ripple effects of can someone else do something about what they've experienced, or even clock it right when they are experiencing something, maybe to maneuver. Not that again we should we shouldn't be able to have to do this, but it is things that women, well, not only women, but a lot of different people do have to take into consideration when being in different confronting circumstances. The title itself is very powerful, I feel like, right? Because many people feel like they do everything right, yet still happens to them. So what did it mean for you in a world where harm still happens?
Yeah, to be honest, I really went back and forth on the title for quite a long time, because I say long time, this project has been like so quick in how it's kind of developed, but what felt like a long time, I was really debating whether it was the right title, because I didn't want anybody to perceive it in a way that suggests that another woman is capable of not doing everything right, if that makes sense. I didn't want it to place the responsibility or the burden on women. I think instead I wanted it to emphasize that in that moment, in that experience, I did everything right. I did everything that I was told that I should do, and I still encountered danger. And I think it's just to kind of draw attention to that, really, that women are doing everything right. Women and non-binary people who are experiencing these things are already doing everything that we're told to do, and it is just like exhausting that responsibility is continually placed on us and our shoulders. So it was really to kind of say, well, we're doing everything right, but you know, what is everybody else doing about this?
Exactly. And again, it's looking, I think one of the biggest cases, but there probably are other ones as well, but again, I'm so bad at names today. Sarah Everard, there we go.
Yes.
You know, she did everything right. She was wearing running shoes. She left at a responsible hour. She was going through places where there was CCTV. And yet, she still met a really devastating end. And, you know, she's not the only one. Isn't it one woman every 3 days, isn't it, gets murdered?
Yeah, and one in every 3 women worldwide will experience violence and or sexual violence at least once in their lifetime. And I think when we hear about people like Sarah Everard, of course there's so many more, but she's, you know, was such a high profile case. I think what was so scary about that case for a lot of women is that it was so relatable, in that her movements were so clearly tracked, and as you said, she kind of did all the things that we're told to do. She'd even, you know, I think she'd called her boyfriend and things like that. Maybe, you know, we know all too well that we do that to kind of like make ourselves feel safe. So yeah, I think it's just, yeah, they just really kind of remind you that there's so much that we can do, but ultimately sometimes we just feel powerless.
It does, and I think also some people don't realise, but I don't know whether you get this, I'm sure a lot of women do get this, but you know, when you're walking at the street at night, I mean, I do it all the time because, you know, London life, but yeah, when someone walks up behind you and they don't and you're the only two people on the street, and most of the time if it's a man, and they don't realise that my heart is racing because I don't know whether you're walking behind me because you're following, or you're walking behind because you want to interact, or you're generally just walking at the same pace as me. And I think even, you know, I remember one time someone clocked it and they either walked ahead of me, I can't remember, I think it happened twice actually, one person just walked ahead, or they crossed a road, or they just held back. But not a lot of people actually realise that, you know, a lot of women do clock that, and it does cause anxiety because you don't know what the intentions are.
Yeah, and I think I'm always, I shouldn't be, this is such a ridiculous thing to say, but I'm always grateful for what might feel like a really small interaction to a man, but can feel like a very threatening situation to a woman, when a man does do something to kind of like de-escalate what can feel threatening, but like you say, by crossing the road. Like even the other day, in the middle of the day, I was walking home from the gym, had my headphones in, and I was walking down this alleyway, which I walk down all the time. And because I had my headphones in, I didn't hear these steps. Somebody was running down the alleyway behind me. And I turned my head, and the woman obviously recognised what I was doing as a woman. And she said, "It's just me, I'm just running." And it just, you know, it reminded me that like in that moment, she knew exactly what I was feeling. And I think it's just a reminder that, you know, we don't have to know other women personally or intimately to understand the experience that we all have.
But I think the other thing also is, you know, whenever you're out with your friends, and I've seen a big difference when I'm out with my girlfriends. Always, whenever you're parting ways to go home, it's send me a text when you're home.
Yeah, send me your live location.
Yeah, or track you. I'll track your Uber. I find my friends, whatever. Always, right? But when I'm with a man friend, they never say that, and it's really interesting because it just shows you that guys just don't maybe look out for each other as much. I don't know.
Yeah. I saw this, I'm going to try and remember her name now as well, but I saw this content creator on Instagram. I know her first name is Liv, and I want to say Liv O'Neill. So I hope that's right. She posted a video of basically she was harassed by a man in the street, and she went into a shop to kind of to get to safety essentially. And she stayed in there for ages and kind of waited for him to go, and somebody who worked in the shop went outside to check if he was still around, said they'd gone. But another woman who was in the shop said, "Let me walk you home. I'll walk home with you. I live nearby. That way we both know that you'll be safe." And I just, so much of it does fall on us. And it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a right that everyone should have, is just to be able to walk home when it's dark. Like, why do we have to, you know, not go out at night, or, you know, go home early, or all of that kind of stuff, when, you know, it should be the same for everyone. And there's this one influencer that is she's a gym, I can't remember what the word is, a gym trainer, the personal trainer, but she started a female run club in London because she was like, I still want to run when it's dark, but why can't I don't feel safe. So she made a massive run club with all loads of girls that are all lit up, and, you know, in that way it is a numbers game, right? The more people you have around you running, the safer you do feel, because you're not alone.
It's such a good initiative. I love running, but I'm not running at the minute. I think I'll be able to soon because it's getting lighter in the mornings. But like where I like to run is like fairly secluded, but it's like in nature, and I want to be able to enjoy that, but I just don't. I think as a woman you have to balance the risk with, you know, satisfaction, I guess, unfortunately.
Definitely, unfortunately. But also, just going back to filming, what responsibility do you think filmmakers have when portraying violence, especially when it's lived experience?
Yeah, I think it's important to question whether the inclusion of violence is something that helps to drive the story forward, or whether it's something that is there for kind of like titillation or dramatic escalation. Like, how essential is it to the story that you're trying to tell and the impact that you're trying to have on people for that violence to be included? Because I think, you know, I'm sure there are some circumstances where it makes sense if there's like a very specific experience that you're trying to communicate that certain people might not understand, then maybe it is worth including. And I'm not completely against it being shown, but I think it does need to be treated with a kind of careful hand and with sensitivity, because what you're depicting, whatever it is, there will be people out there who've experienced it. And of course, as well, the responsibility does fall on the individual viewer to kind of decide whether to consume something if they know that it's reflecting an experience that they've had. But, you know, when we're creating stories that are going to be seen by hopefully lots of people, I think it's really important to just really bear that in mind. Yeah,
it's interesting you say that, because I think it's actually really important to show violence especially towards this is going to sound really badly, but violence towards women on film. Not because I think more people should see it. I think more people should see the consequences of it and what happens and how it affects individuals. Yeah. And there's one, I remember when I was in drama school, our coach was like, you all need to go watch Irreversible. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, I haven't.
There's a 20-minute rape scene in it.
Oh my God.
It's horrible. And when I watched it, I just sobbed my eyes out, absolutely sobbed my eyes out. And my boyfriend at the time, he was like, it's not real, like, why are you crying? And I was like, you don't understand, it is real. Yeah. Like, not that moment, right? But this does happen to people all the time.
Yeah, and I think in cases like that, I think I would argue that inclusion, I imagine, is doing what they set out to do, you know? Like, of course, you watched that, and as women, we've all, unfortunately, most of us have been in experiences where we can relate to that feeling, but there'll be people watching that film who can't and might be seeing that and experiencing that for the first time. And if that creates empathy and understanding, then that's really important. So I think it's just about like, what is it that you're trying to achieve with your film or your story?
Exactly. I mean, I love to shock and all of that kind of stuff. And I think, you know, when you give people what they might not expect to see, I mean, it's very confronting. But I think personally, film does have a kind of duty to make you feel. And if it doesn't make you feel, it's not a very good film.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so difficult because I think like as a creative person, I think you do have to think about how your work's going to be received, but I think that you also do need to balance like strong storytelling and powerful storytelling, and you know, some of the most exciting and surprising things that I've seen have included things that I found shocking and kind of felt like I wanted to look away from but couldn't look away from. And yeah, I think it's a really difficult one, I think.
It is. It 100% is, but I think also like confronting people with the reality of not sugarcoating it, because I think sometimes films used to, you know, really glance over the reality and the horror of some things that do happen. And I think making it more realistic and gruesome makes you clock twice and really think about it later on. I mean, I would love to see what men's opinions of that film itself was. That would have been really interesting to see, you know, how did that, of watching like a man fully, it was a really bad rape scene.
Yeah.
To see like whether it made them think about things in other ways and how they treat people, for example. I would be really curious to see whether it changed perceptions or whether it did the opposite. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd love to know that. And also, like, I guess if they watch something like that, can they see maybe an experience that they've had where they maybe thought it was a consensual experience and maybe realised that, oh, actually, maybe that wasn't, you know, the other person's experience at all. I think, yeah, and I need to watch it.
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, it's not a nice watch, but
yeah, when I've got the headspace for it, I will watch it.
Yeah. Just really coming back onto that, do you think there are sometimes instances where, you know, stories about gender-based violence can be misunderstood or minimized or restricted?
I think so. I think even the way that we talk about gender-based violence can be misunderstood and minimized. I think also I kind of like and R about the term gender-based violence a little bit and how interchangeable it is with male violence as a term, because I think I know confronting is a word that you've used a couple of times, but I think calling it male violence is quite a confronting thing because it's not naming the kind of the victims, the people who are experiencing this, although I hate the word victim. It's naming the perpetrators, and I think that's like inherently inflammatory. But I've been doing a lot of reading about this stuff recently because I'm doing a panel discussion and I've had some other conversations about this. And I came across a study the other day by the UN, which was in 2019, and it found that 90% of all global homicides were perpetrated by men. At the same time, men make up 80% of the victims of homicides. And, you know, we already know, I said earlier, that 1 in 3 women worldwide will experience violence at least once in their lifetime. So I think, who are we protecting? We're not protecting anybody, because men are still suffering violence, women are still suffering violence. We need to stop minimizing the prevalence of it and its impact on us as a society, as individuals, psychologically. Yeah, I just think it can be quite confronting that maybe people see themselves in the stories that we're telling and don't like that. Don't like to think of themselves as perpetrators of violence.
Yeah, again, and you know, like, everyone gets violent at some point, but I think it really depends on where it escalates and how far it escalates, and, you know, no form of violence is ever okay. But again, I feel like sometimes, you know, from viewing different men and, you know, working in the sector, I think it's interesting to see when it's like, no, I'm not like that, but then you see behaviors of that.
Yeah, and also, you know, whether, even if you believe that you're not like that, or even if you are not like that, and, you know, you've never been violent in your life, I think there's also a fear of having those difficult conversations with people that you love and your friends. I think women are much more comfortable having challenging conversations that might become emotional and might expose vulnerabilities, and we might disagree about things, because ultimately I think we're better equipped to resolve conflict and hold other people's emotions as well as our own. But I think there's a real reluctance there, and I wouldn't say it's like a conscious reluctance from men, but I think it's about how we're raising them to just not feel supported or comfortable in talking about their feelings, and I think that also encompasses having difficult conversations with the people in your life about their behavior.
And ultimately, like you said, it's talking about feelings, like why did that make you feel this way? What happened here? You know, I always say that, you know, the people that go to therapy are the survivors of perpetrators, when it's the perpetrators themselves that should be in therapy. But because they're uncomfortable and they don't want to confront their emotions, maybe difficult things that they've gone through, or just the issues that they should be resolving.
Yeah.
Which is also just interesting to look at.
Yeah, reflect on.
No, exactly. But yeah, how important do you think survivors being part of project themselves and the story, not just being subjects of stories, but also being part of the creative process, is that really important, or does that also cause other challenges?
I mean, I think of course there are challenges involved, because I think there's an element of like re-traumatization. I think something that was really interesting that I experienced when I started writing this, I think I said earlier that, you know, just after, in the kind of aftermath, immediately after my experience of being followed home, I couldn't sleep through the night. I really struggled to fall asleep, and I was having panic attacks and all sorts. And I'd kind of moved through that with therapy. And when I started writing again, or when I started writing the story, I started to struggle to sleep again. And it was really weird, because it was kind of like, okay, I'm processing these feelings all over again. And ultimately, I'm sleeping fine now. I sleep really well, and better than I did before this experience. So if anything, that was a really cathartic process. So I think there's that element, that doing it is a means of catharsis for the person that's experienced it. But I also think it's a way to reclaim the narrative around what's happened. I watched a really great documentary the other day called My Blonde Girlfriend. It's My Blonde GF. It's available to watch for free on The Guardian. I think it's about 20 minutes long. It might be available elsewhere. But it's basically, it's a documentary through the perspective of this woman, whose name I can't remember, annoyingly. And she's a woman with a son. She's at home at some point, I think maybe out of work at this point, and somebody she knows knocks on her door and tells her that they've come across images of her in pornography and asked whether it was her. And it wasn't her. But what happened from there is that she unraveled this kind of, plethora of deepfake pornographic videos of herself, and she was watching, her face and her hair and her body and her outfits that she'd posted happy photos of and had memories attached to, repurposed in this way, and felt so violated. She was walking down the street thinking, are people looking at me, and do they know, and are they judging me, and I feel shame right now, even though she had nothing to do with what had happened. And I think by creating that documentary and by it being told from her perspective, it's kind of like that phrase, Giselle Pellico, that has become so synonymous with this whole conversation, which is shame needs to change sides. And I think the more we give voices to the people who have experienced these things, the more we're able to kind of push that shame onto the perpetrators and away from us. Because just because we've experienced something doesn't mean that defines who we are. It's just something that's happened to us.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because I feel like a lot of perpetrators don't feel shame. They only feel shame when they're caught. And
is it even shame, or is it like...
No, I personally think it's embarrassment and their ego being really bruised.
Yeah.
Just from what I've seen, from my experiences, I don't think they have the capacity to feel that, which is interesting because, survivors do feel a lot of shame, or whether it's restless nights or, having night sweats because you can't sleep because of the stress, or all these different things that you might then blame yourself, saying, oh, I'm not doing anything properly, but then it's realizing, no, it's because it's how your body's coping and how it's trying to be in survival mode, and even turning pleasure, pain into pleasure just to survive certain moments, right? And then tricking your brain, all this psychological power that your brain has is just incredible in terms of when you're dealing with whether it's physical violence, emotional violence, sexual violence, any of those kind of things. And just as we're in the topic of that, I'm laughing, but it's really not funny at all. It's just everything that's happening with the Epstein cases as well, hits very much on the topics that we're talking about. I mean, and even further, right? We've obviously seen through the Epstein cases, for example, how systems can protect powerful individuals and silencing victims. How has that reality influenced the kinds of stories that you maybe want to tell?
I think it just continues to light a fire under me, to be honest, of kind of incentivizes me even more to want to kind of shine a light on experiences that people are having that other people don't know about. And, if people don't know about those experiences because of systems that are in place to prevent that from getting out, I think we have a responsibility as a society to do everything that we can, whatever our role is within that society, whether we're kind of working in journalism, whether we're working in filmmaking, even just the conversations we're having with the people around us. I just feel so galvanized to do something about it, but also just maddened by the fact that, these things are only just coming out to the public now, but they've been knowledge to people within these positions of power for a very long time. And it's only due to public response and that information being shared publicly that a small percentage of these people are now starting to face consequences. And I think it's absolutely wild that so many of them aren't. And I feel like we could talk about this particular question for a very long time.
I mean, it could be a whole series of podcasts in itself. Yeah. I mean, going through everything that's happening. But the other thing I think is really interesting, again, no one listened to the victims, but they listened to a dead man's emails.
Yeah.
Again, right? When thousands of women and girls were saying, this is what I experienced, this is what happened. And yet it takes not even handwritten, right? Email.
Yeah, I think it really prolongs the pain and suffering of the people, the women and girls who've experienced this. I think you make a really good point about why does it take all of this in order for these people's testimonies to be believed? Because, you know, only now, after some of these women have died, and, you know, maybe their families might get a modicum of peace as a result of these indictments, but it doesn't bring their family back, and it doesn't really do justice to what their loved ones have been through.
Definitely. And I just in terms of conspiracy theories, I don't play on to conspiracy theories, but, you know, it's quite interesting to see that most people that have spoken out about victims or survivors that have spoken out about it have died.
It's genuinely worrying. Yeah, and I think we always do have to kind of like exercise a certain level of what's the word? Discretion? I don't know if that's the right word when it comes to conspiracy theories, but I think that one feels particularly credible.
It's really strange. Like, it's just not. I think there was that one Spanish guy, I think, that, you know, she was screaming crazy on CCTV. I think that was she saying they're killing children or something like that, and that she disappeared the next day. You know, Virginia, again, I can't remember her name.
And Joffrey, I think?
Yes. She suddenly, I mean, I read her book that came out after she passed away.
Yeah.
And I know she really struggled with mental health just from, you know, from what she was saying and I also listened to it. So it was the woman saying it sounded very similar to her. I think they did really well in portraying her voice. But again, it just seems weird. It seems way too much of like a coincidence that she's committed suicide, and yet it doesn't seem to me like she would have done something like that just from reading her book. And, you know, watching her in the documentaries, for example, it's just very worries me a lot, because, you know, so many women, I mean most of my friends have been, you probably have the same, most women do get harassed or touched or felt up in one way or another in their lifetime, and most people don't report it because nothing happens. And when you even get an extreme crime like that happening and no one is still listening to you, why do you even bother?
Yeah, I think you know, in whatever way these women have died, in whatever way they've suffered, I think the systems that are protecting these powerful men have a lot of blood on their hands either way.
It's just a shame, you know, that systems that are meant to protect don't until it's too late. And that's the issue I would say I have with the current government in the UK anyway, is, you know, they say they want to halve violence against women and girls, yet they're letting sex offenders out of prisons because prisons are overcrowding. So maybe you just want to, you know, reduce the offences and the amount of people going to prison for sexual crimes. But is violence actually going to reduce? No.
Yeah, and what exactly are you doing to proactively reduce it? Like, is funding being increased that's supporting that work?
They've cut it. This is the thing.
This is the thing.
They've cut funding.
We've got I think, you know, unfortunately in the UK, I think we've got so used to government saying one thing and doing another, and even that has become normalised, I think. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people do take what our politicians say at face value. But it's like, if you take literally less than a minute to look into these things, you'll find that what they're saying doesn't align with reality.
No, exactly. And do you think, you know, maybe showing stories? I mean, I would love to do a film screening for politicians to actually see what women go through on streets. I mean, that would be incredible just to show. And maybe, because, you know, I've learned from my work as well, is, you know, most MPs don't actually know what's happening half the time.
Yeah. And I mean, I could get into all of my political stances, but I think that's why I also struggle with the makeup of our political system right now, being a lot of kind of older, middle to upper class white men. I think our government needs to be truly representative of the society we have so that it can serve the society we have. If you don't understand what people are going through, how can you possibly, advocate for them? And I mean, I just don't think they care to advocate for most people, is what I'm seeing in the policies. But yeah.
I know, but I think it's just another sense of like, keep going. The more you shout, they're gonna talk to you at some point, because they might just to shut you up.
Yeah, and I think I really like that idea of having dedicated screenings, and I know.
Well, maybe it's something that we can work on at some point.
Yeah, we can collaborate on that.
Definitely. I mean, I've got a project that I really want to. I'm starting to write at the moment that I think is going to be quite a good thing for people to see, to be honest.
Yeah.
But what role do you think storytelling can play in challenging cultures of silence, whether it's, big organizations or institutional silence, or, governmental silence, or even just within friendship groups? Because I think people, especially when you have mixed gender friendship groups, it's sometimes a very sensitive topic to bring these kind of issues up.
I think it's super important. I think storytelling in all of its forms, like you say, whether it's through conversations, whether it's through editorial features, short form video content creation, people getting on the internet and saying, this has happened to me. And, the films that we make, the forums that we facilitate, I think these issues that we're facing can only exist in silence for as long as we don't talk about it. And I think I appreciate and understand that particularly with the subject matter that we're talking about today, which is violence and sexual violence, it's so challenging to speak about. There are people who've experienced something that don't tell anyone for their entire life, because there's just so many complicated feelings surrounding it. So I think I don't want to be reductive or dismissive in how I communicate the importance of telling our stories. It's more that I just want to encourage people who do feel that they can and have a platform and a voice to do so.
Completely. And I think another really important thing just to mention is, because I feel like some men always get very defensive, it's not that when you bring these things up, we're like attacking, as like the male gender. Yeah. But I think it's important, and men do have a certain privilege that women don't have. Obviously, there's different privileges. I mean, obviously, race, class, all those kind of things also play into it. However, I think it's important as a man to understand and be aware, because self-awareness and just aware of other people's experiences. Look, there's stuff and experiences that I haven't been aware of that people have gone through, but I've made myself aware of them. And I think that's important as well, whether, you're an MP, to understand your fellow people within Parliament, or your people within your constituency, or whether you have a group of friends and something's happened. It's even understanding things like, remember when consent, and if you took off a condom, is that like not understanding that is then not consensual sex? It's those kind of small things that some people don't consider is really something that you do need to think about, because small actions like that can really affect an individual, and from feeling respected to completely not feeling respected.
Yeah, and I think even in the positive storytelling that we do, even if it's like something much lighter in tone, like a romantic drama or a film or a TV show, introducing healthy consent into those interactions, into those intimate scenes, can not only be just like super sexy to watch, but also really helps to progress ideas around what's acceptable. and what people feel comfortable doing in those situations, because I think it is about being proactive, even in your personal life.
Exactly, and it's more challenging as well when you get things like grok happening on Twitter or X now, right? The fact that something like that is like that producing child pornography through a social media platform that was even could even happen. And through AI now, what can happen, and what you talked about with deepfakes, like it happens all the time now. But even allowing programming for something like that to happen is a massive, massive question. I mean, I remember reading Sarah Bates's book on the new age of sexism, and she said that, AI has perfected the female body because there is an economic advantage to it. Men pay to see that, whether it's they send a picture of their friend or someone they know, which is very high rates compared to like celebrities, right? Because they know them, it's more accessible, it might become true more, versus women who don't tend to do that. So male bodies in AI are not perfected, and just even thinking about was very shocking to me.
I think I'm super interested in the topic of as much as even just hearing the phrase AI makes my soul kind of deflate a little bit. I think I'm really interested in the topic of AI and technology facilitated gender-based violence, because I think women are disproportionately affected by advancements in technology like this. But I think I'm really kind of worried, but also encouraged by seeing that there's a lot of amazing work being done in that area already by people lobbying. There's an organisation called Womankind Worldwide who I'm doing some work with at the moment. They're hosting an Independent Women's Day event all focused on technology facilitated gender-based violence, and releasing a playbook on how we can all kind of play our part in shifting that, because technology is evolving more rapidly than laws can keep up with.
I mean, the Online Harm Act they only updated it last year to include a bit more protections for women. And yet, AI is not included in that yet because it wasn't a thing when it was first created. And again, it's going to have to become maybe next year. Maybe it will come into policy.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like we also need to review how quickly these things can come into effect. And I think there are kind of certain emergency measures being taken. I imagine not sufficient emergency measures, but I think, we just, in a world where technology can evolve within minutes, I think we need law that can evolve within the same, time frame.
I see a short film that we can do together on this. I think that would be quite fun, actually. We should definitely do something like that. Because like you said, I think technology is only advancing. It's only getting worse. And, just looking at how it can affect an individual's life and how it can ruin someone's life. And, that shame thing comes in again, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
You're both an actor and a writer, very similar to my kind of work. But how differently do you experience a story when you're inside it versus when you're constructing it? Because it is very different experiences that you do have with it.
Yeah. I think, can I clarify the question? When you say when you're inside it versus when you're constructing it, do you mean when you're inside it as an actor?
Yeah, as a character, playing the character.
Fine. Got you. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to triple check. That's how I understood it, but I didn't want to answer it in the wrong way. Yeah, it's totally different. And I love that because I think it exercises two very different parts of my brain, which is always really nice to discover as a creative person. I think when I'm writing, I think, of course, your imagination is a tool that you use across all of your creative outlets. But I think when I'm writing, yes, I call on my imagination. I do a lot of visualization. But more than that, I call on my own kind of lived experiences and real specific examples to bring truth to whatever stories I'm telling. Even if it's not, I do a lot of stories that aren't based on my personal experience and that are just exploring relationship dynamics and the human condition. But I think what is interesting about storytelling is that every person has their own unique perspective, and I think the more we can bring that specificity to what we write, the more interesting it will be, and weirdly the more it will resonate with more people. So yeah, I think that's something that I bring to my writing in particular. When it comes to acting, even with I Did Everything Right, I'm keen to completely detach from the fact that that happened to me. I'm really excited to take that on as like a creative challenge, and I don't want to try to recreate something that happened to me 3.5 years ago now, because that's going to get lost in translation. I'm much more interested in taking the given circumstances that this character is going through, where in the world is she, what time is it, who is she with, who is she speaking to, what's just happened, what does she want, all of those things, and living it as truthfully as possible as the person I am today, because even the person I am on like day one of the shoot might be different to the person I am even at the end of that day or the next day. And so I'm just interested in using my imagination and my empathy to place myself within a story, whether it's a project that I've written or not. Just gets me really excited.
No, I completely get you, because I've written a lot about, stuff that I've gone through as well, and it's interesting to see because sometimes you completely separate from it, like your body kind of separates from it, because it's like, well, it's no longer me. It's now also because nothing that you write is going to be exactly like it was, and also it shouldn't be, because I think it's more interesting to kind of, you want to tell a story and a purpose, and you want to have a kind of, I don't want to say call to action, but you do want to make the audience think and question things, right? That's the purpose of film. But you get to, I think, experience it in a different way, but you get the emotional, the thing in your belly to kind of drive you through that and make you kind of experiment with it. You can see where it might take you to somewhere else. You might end up thinking about it slightly differently from when you've gone through, especially when a bit of time has gone through, or it can at moments. It's interesting to see whether some things do bring you back to exactly the same feeling.
Yeah, and I think I'm not sure what your kind of stance on this, but in acting training, I've not had formal training, but I've done a lot of learning, and emotional memory is something that, at some point inevitably you're encouraged to explore, of like, can you call on particular memories that you've had to evoke the emotions that you felt in that moment. And I just think, I personally feel that I can't rely on that, and I think the more you call on those memories, the less you're able to, because I guess each time you call on them, you're healing from that in a way. So yeah, I'm always just interested in like, what is the best way for me to access this in the present moment that doesn't rely on a finite resource that I have and will run out.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I never really recall on anything that I've gone through, because I studied Meisner, or like an advancement of Meisner.
Yeah, me too. Adore.
Yeah, so it's more like, more using your imagination and putting yourself in a situation maybe that you've never been to, but your body still reacts to it because your body doesn't know the difference between the real, or your emotions don't know the difference between real and imaginary. So I think, obviously if you've gone through something that's very similar, you'll know exactly what it feels, and maybe it will feel more real. Yeah. But I don't think, looking at, when you get some actors that are like, I was really assaulted, so I just went back and I just cried about it. It doesn't protect you. I think it can really cause, like, you don't want to re-traumatize the actor. You want to be able to say cut and you can snap out of it and you're fine, and you're not having a mental breakdown on set still. I think that's the kind of the thing I worry about when, you know, there's more authenticity in the industry, is, you know, actors are trained in a way in order to protect themselves and make it safe for them and also the crew, right, the set.
Yeah.
But I feel like sometimes when you do, maybe not all survivors of domestic violence, but maybe other aspects, you know, when you do get people that maybe, I don't know, when you get, I know there was one set where they wanted to have real prisoners on the set, and they ended up chasing with the crew with knives because, you know, they went to, like, they're prisoners. They haven't been reformed yet. They haven't had the chance to develop. Maybe I hope they have the opportunity to do that. But it's dangerous. You don't want to be in a situation where people are in a dangerous situation on set, whether it's the crew or the actors. So I think it's important to have those emotional protections in place. Anyway, I went on a tangent.
No, lovely. I enjoyed it.
But I think, again, you know, it does cause the fact of, like, violence being quite dangerous, especially when you're having like, it is very vulnerable when you have, like, mental breakdowns on set, right? So it's being able to be in an environment where, you know, if you have gone through something like that and you're retelling it through another character that is very different, that there is it feels like a safe space.
Yeah.
I think
and I think there's a lot of work also to be done in how we handle that on set, how we handle those kind of, like, emotionally heightened scenes and intimate scenes. I think there's still a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, well, even intimacy coordinators, right? I think, you know, there never used to be a thing, and it is another way to kind of reduce violence against anyone that feels like they've maybe don't feel comfortable with doing something, especially in the post-Weinstein era. So it is really important, but like you said, they're very new, so it's still kind of, they're figuring out how it works.
Yeah, and I think there's been a little bit of controversy around certain films where, you know, it's come out that the actors have kind of said that they didn't want an intimacy coordinator, they felt comfortable, and, you know, I totally understand that. And I think there's also the conversation to be had of, like, who is the intimacy coordinator for? Because it isn't necessarily just for the actors involved in the scene, it's also there for safeguarding of everybody else. So who should be making those decisions, really?
Yeah, I think it's really important to think of. And, you know, as the role kind of progresses, it'd be interesting to see whether there is a way where it feels more like a part of set. Because I feel like now sometimes people hear, like, oh, an intimacy coordinator, and that people just, like, think, oh, I don't need that, it's so silly, so stupid. But it really is quite important.
Yeah, and I think there's levels to it as well. I think, you know, there can be, she says, I know absolutely nothing about intimacy coordination, but even from the perspective of, like, a director on set, there's, you know, it's a sliding scale of, like, how hands-on that person can be and what suits the scene and what suits everybody who's involved. Like, it can be light touch or it can be super choreographed. I think it doesn't have to feel like a restriction. It shouldn't feel like a restriction.
Well, it's like a dance, isn't it? It's a way your body moves, and it's figuring out the rhythm. It's like it's like any scene, right? It's figuring out the rhythm, what everyone's comfortable with, and yeah, hopefully everyone does. Well, it will find, every job finds its place more, so it will be better as it goes along, I think. Just finally closing, and we've literally covered so much from all kinds of issues on violence against women and girls. But what kind of cultural shift do you hope your film contributes to, not just in screenings, but also how we listen, believe, and respond to survivors?
Yeah, I think it's a big question. And of course, like, immediately I'm filled with imposter syndrome at the thought of having any kind of cultural shift. But I think, to be honest, I would say that I've even experienced imposter syndrome when it came to my own experience of being followed. I think when I started to tell this story, I was kind of constantly like downplaying it to myself and kind of asking the question of like, I was fine, like nothing happened, like I was able to get away and I'm fine. And I was kind of like downplaying it with myself, because this has become like the threat of violence and the threat of sexual violence has become such a normalized part of our lives. But it's not normal to fear for and have to defend your life as often as we currently do. So I think, you know, like the story that I listened to in that podcast, and hopefully like the people will feel when they watch my film, I just hope that it makes other people feel more comfortable in speaking about their own experience. And it doesn't even have to be on any kind of scale. I just think if you can talk to one person about it, hopefully that will lighten the like mental and emotional load that you're carrying. And even like, I met up with somebody the other day to have a conversation about this project, and we'd met previously like quite a while ago, and she said that after our first meeting she went and spoke to her mum about the film, and through that conversation her mum then opened up about an experience that she'd had, and this woman also opened up. And I just think, even if it's just those, you know, small interactions that are actually huge in the grand scheme of our personal lives, yeah, I'd be really happy with even just that shift.
But as we said, those small, I feel like I say this every single time when I do a podcast or anything in campaigning, it's small things really do work, and it's the things that then start the conversation for cultural shifts or societal shifts. So yeah, I don't think you should underestimate them at all, and I think they are like massive big wins. Even that, you know, getting one person come up to you after an event and being like, it's really changed I was really hurt, felt very seen, very heard. I think no, we can't downplay the significance of that. Yeah I'm really excited for it to come out and for the conversations that I will hopefully be having about it. Have you filmed it already? No, we are shooting spring, so we haven't locked down dates yet, but we're ready to go with you know, crew and budget and all that. Very exciting. I'm very excited to watch it when it comes out. Thank you. I will of course invite you to any screenings. Yes, I know, I'm very looking forward to it. I want to thank you so much for having this really important conversation that, you know, should be not at the forefront, but it should be on a lot of people's minds, not only just on 16 Days of Activism or International Women's Day or any of those kind of things, but, you know, really integrating, you know, experiences for different types of people within everyday circumstances and everyday issues, not just the ones that get singled out, because they're not enough. No, and you know, I really appreciate this platform that you're using as well. I've really enjoyed listening to the episodes that you've put out. I think just facilitating these conversations we're all kind of heading in the same direction. Yeah, hopefully it will make some change.